Hello, good morning. My name is Miguel Molina. Happy to be here. I know I'm the only thing stopping you from lunch, so the next 15 minutes will be very engaging. I'm the founder of Analytikus, and we're going to be talking about personalizing the student experience. Over the last 7 years at Analytikus, we've been working on personalizing the value proposition of higher education institutions. We put most of our energy up to now on student success solutions, predicting the probability of a student dropping out, maximizing the employability. But over the last 2 years, we shifted our efforts into the learning analytics space. And this is the area where we believe we can have the largest impact at the highest speed. And today, I'm going to have the privilege of sharing with you one of our solutions, portrait learning. Portrait is a learning analytics solution that basically does two things. Number one, it understands how an individual student is learning. And number two, based on that understanding, generates personalized messages that are going to impact the student. So why are we doing this? What is the problem that we're facing? At least 69% of dropouts say one of the key reasons for dropping out is the lack of motivation. And it's really hard for educational institutions to give the one-on-one support and provide at a scale support for students. Now, imagine the following scenario. Imagine you could understand how a student is learning. Imagine you could identify systematically the areas of opportunity, of areas of reinforcement, in order to send personalized messages that could have an impact on motivation, academic performance, and the learning experience. Let me give you an example of how this works. Let's say for the next couple of minutes, I'm John. John is a higher education student, has missed some assignments, has shown an average motivation, and this is Emilia. Emilia is interacting with me. She's a personalized virtual pedagogical bot. Hi, John. I'm Emilia, your virtual pedagogical bot. I'll be sharing some tips and ideas with you. John, did you know that breathing plays an important part in promoting calmness? John, every night before going to sleep, use the notifications and calendar section in order to remember, and so on and so forth. All these messages are not random. These messages are based on the understanding of Emilia on how John learns. So how does this work? John, as you already know, is leaving behind many digital signals on the LMS, Moodle, Blackboard, Canvas, D2L, on some screeners that might have done at the beginning of the journey, on the SIS, but also on some transactionals like Microsoft Teams, wherever he's leaving some digital signals. On Reflect, you might know that student well-being solution. So all these signals come together in order to feed a learning analytics framework based on 4 pillars: executive functions, social skills, willingness to learn, and achievement. And based on that understanding, Emilia has a backpack with thousands of messages. Is going to select the ideal message for John at the ideal moment. So let me talk about the learning analytics framework. As I shared, the learning analytics framework is composed of 4 pillars: executive functions, social skills, willingness to learn, and achievement. Out of the 4 pillars, there are 16 building blocks composed of heuristic models and cognitive models. Executive functions such as working memory, time management, organizational skills, these signals most likely are already on the LMS. Social skills such as communication, teamwork, leadership, every time the student is interacting with another student, every time he's interacting with faculty. Willingness to learn is a cognitive algorithm that uses intrinsic personality traits in order to assess emotional ranges. I'll explain that in a second. And achievement, which is information most likely already on the SIS, but also that it's complemented through screeners. The cognitive algorithm that we're using for willingness to learn is inspired on the big 5 traits of personality: openness, consciousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And it is using natural language processing in order to infer intrinsic personality traits. It doesn't really matter if it comes from a discussion on a forum, an essay on history, philosophy, or engineering. We all leave some personality traits whenever we write, based on the complexity of the sentences, the complexity of the paragraphs, the frequency of the words, and our cognitive algorithm allows us to measure this. So the innovative learning analytics and AI approach is composed of two blocks. One, understanding how the student learns, and the second one, interacting with the student. This interaction is, of course, the massive knowledge base that we have put together, these personalized nudges, but also the natural processing language ability that Emilia has in order to interact with the students. From a pedagogical perspective, we're impacting learning based on those four pillars. Executive functions. The messages have been put together in order to promote academic performance, in order to promote motivation, because at the end, we all know emotion is the gateway of cognition. Based on those interpersonal abilities, the messages push the student or give tips to the student in order to develop those skills and, of course, achievement. And in terms of the results, the benefits that we're looking for, it's very clear. Metacognitive students, well-being, and student motivation. Let me do a brief demo on how the solution works. So this is the first part. We want to understand how John is learning. This is a report. This is what Emilia uses in order to feed and send the messages. So there are the 4 areas of development, the 16 building blocks, and we can see where this particular student, John, is standing. Through time, how the mix has changed, how many messages John has received through time, to how many messages he has reacted, what's the impact on the grades, if there is any. Of course, we can change from one student to another. But not only this, when we aggregate this report at a faculty level, we allow professors and faculty to understand where different groups might be gravitating. So this is a report that was prepared for a faculty member. Again, the 4 areas of development, 16 building blocks. Faculty can choose 1 or 2 courses, or every course, in this case 34 students. Where are the groups gravitating? And based on these distributions, we can not only give personalized messages to the student, but also to faculty members. Tips on how to prepare activities, tips on how to deliver the messages. Let's move to the second part of the solution, the interaction of Emilia with the student. There's a question that I'm sure is going to come up. What happens when there's not enough information on the LMS? What we're doing, and what you're seeing in this example, is we're asking the student. We're just simply asking the student. If there is a blank on one of the 16 building blocks, Emilia starts sending also questions to the student in order to understand in this dialogue, hey, whenever you're presenting with this situation, how do you react? And based on that, Emilia learns how the student learns. In this pedagogical dialogue, as I already shared, we're trying to improve the student motivation, the metacognition of the students, and the student well-being. We've been working on this solution for the last couple of years. Let me share a little bit about our traction. The solution was co-created with an educational institution in Ecuador. Last year, we started working on different pilots throughout the Latin American region. This year, we're working with universities in Spain, in the US, in Latin America, and also, this is something too remarkable, with a Ministry of Education. What are some of the results and feedback that we're getting from our solution? At least 68% of the students that received the message felt motivated. 59 thought they experienced a sense of reflection. This is what we're aiming for. 81 considered the messages helpful. 68% applied the nudge on their life. So just to wrap up on the solution, Portrait is a solution that empowers institutions to, number one, understand how students learn, and number two, to improve motivation and satisfaction by delivering personalized messages. What about our presence and expansion? Over the last 7 years, we built a significant presence in Latin America and Spain, in Spanish-speaking countries. We are penetrating the US market and the Middle East through different partners. What's our ask for Asia? Number one, we want to do pilots with higher education institutions. And because I know that you're going to launch after this, I selected these words with all the conscious. We're looking for higher education institutions that are hungry to innovate, for higher education institutions that have the appetite to document the impact that this solution could have on learning, on motivation, on metacognition. We believe institutions in Hong Kong and Singapore would be ideal. We're also looking for partners, higher education specialists that can complement our services and that can support us localizing the solution. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Here's my contact information. Let's keep the discussion. Use the QR code to connect through LinkedIn. If you're from far away seeing this presentation, just put your cell phone and we'll connect on LinkedIn. Ready to answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much.